Welcome to HFY Sci-Fi Stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. A palpable tension crackled as the dropship plunged towards HFY, a forest moon. Emerald shadows stretched infinitely, bathed in the faint glow of a distant star. Inside, a diverse squad of cadets, reptilian, avian, silicon, and human, stood silent, preparing. Each adjusted gear, calibrating visors, and engaging AI modules. All wore the standard Galactic Cadet Corps combat suits, emblazoned with their species insignias and rank patches. Amongst them was Jonas Cade, the sole human. He adjusted the strap of his analog backpack. His equipment was minimal: a weathered compass, a notebook, and a sharpened pencil. A knife and a solar blanket were secured. He was alone. Most cadets saw him as antiquated, a curious anomaly in this advanced training. Jonas preferred to observe, silently navigating the prejudice. A hiss signaled the hatch's release. Commander Varix, a towering insectoid, his voice echoing through a translator, addressed the group. "Cadets," he began. "Today, your advanced reconnaissance abilities will be tested. Locate and neutralize the enemy outpost within the southern quadrant. Dense terrain, limited visibility. Sensors are your primary tools. 8-hour time limit." Cadets activated systems. Drones erupted, buzzing above like a mechanical swarm, displaying maps and suggesting routes. Corinne, a silicon cadet, chuckled digitally, projecting paths. Jonas remained still. He'd studied the satellite images, memorizing the terrain and the wind currents. He knew where water would likely pool, and that this moon was humid and dense with life. "No drone?" Captain Issa, a crystalline being, asked curiously. "I don't use them," Jonas replied. "Observation," he added. "And I don't want my tools fried mid-operation." Before she could respond, the hatch hissed open. Heat slammed against them. Relax Vi's swampy jungles exuded oppressive humidity. The squad plunged into the undergrowth. Jonas knelt, pressing fingers into the damp earth. There had been recent rainfall. He marked the drop zone. Commander Varix's voice cut through comms. "Split into 2 teams. Report anomalies. Maintain stealth." Jonas walked with the right flank, moving silently, his eyes scanning the canopy and undergrowth. He watched the terrain, the slope of the land. Beneath the emerald canopy, Jonas absorbed the forest's secrets, root formations, whispering animal tracks, a disquieting silence. Instinct prickled. The hidden outpost felt too calm. Then the world lurched. Drones spiraled, their lifeblood cut, visors blacked out, a silent pulse shuddered through the earth, silencing everything digital. Panic flared, but Jonas remained grounded. He retrieved his notebook. The AI's guidance was useless now. His gaze locked onto a colossal tree, its roots embracing a rocky embrace. He closed the book, a silent pact made. Ignoring the chaotic comms and broken machines, Jonas stepped toward the towering giant, his decision firm. He tested the bark, its rough texture speaking of time and resilience. He launched upward, grasping a sturdy limb. The forest throbbed with disorientation. Cadets cried into useless devices, their faces etched with disbelief, while others, paralyzed, watched their drones die. This pulse had surgically disabled their advantage. Jonas climbed higher, impervious to their desperate glances. No one followed. His hands sought natural holds. He ascended slowly, returning to something innate. At 10 meters, the air thinned, the forest's chorus intensified. Giant insects buzzed. He swatted away one, its mandibles twitching. 15 meters above, he paused. He sketched a compass and charted his elevation. From this vantage, the jungle transformed into a living map, revealing patterns in light, shadows, and the subtle movement of leaves. Something shimmered below, a hidden reflection. He mapped it on paper. Artificial structures always left a trace. He saw subtle thermal distortions above a ridge, the enemy's secret location. He sketched furiously. Trails led through the undergrowth. These weren't random paths, but military logic, defensive loops. He recognized their strategy. Then, from below, a voice. Captain Eska, her form shimmering in the sunlight. A dappled shaft of sunlight pierced the dense canopy. Below, Eska's confused voice drifted up. She wasn't angry, just bewildered. He waved, then continued, content she wasn't following. High above, an avian silhouette landed, talons biting deep. An obsidian eye fixed on Jonas, head tilting. He stilled, breath held. The creature emitted a low, chilling, mechanical trill, then spread vast wings and glided away. As it vanished, a subtle distortion rippled. A cloaked observation drone, almost imperceptible, hovered. Untouched by the EMP, it belonged to the simulation's architects. Jonas turned back, pressing his pencil harder. Every stroke, every deduction, was under scrutiny. Someone evaluated his choices. Good. Let them witness. Let them record how a human, stripped of drones, AI, or enhanced optics, could do what others hadn't dared. Let them learn something real. A wind shift brought humid air from the south, carrying faint ash. A hidden campfire, too subtle for smoke plumes, yet his keen senses caught it. He marked the bearing, instantly deducing a forward scouting group, phantom enemies near the mock base perimeter. He added this anomaly to his map, connecting it with other inconsistencies. His fingers dark with graphite, the enemy outpost solidified. 3 outer patrol loops, 2 blind spots, and a single precarious approach path veiled by dense vines and a deceptive slope. He folded the page, secured it within his vest, and began the arduous descent. The way down was harder. Gravity clawed at weary limbs, damp bark treacherous. Twice he teetered, heart leaping, but his grip held. Muscles screamed from static tension. He dropped to the forest floor, caked in grime and exertion. Eska stood waiting, head tilted, an unreadable enigma. She offered no words, her gaze fixed. Jonas extended the map. Her slender fingers took the crumpled sheet without a sound, crystalline eyes widening as she traced the lines, recognizing terrain. She flipped the paper, searching for some unseen digital imprint. "It's from memory," he stated, "and observation." Eska looked at him, and for the first time, her stoic expression cracked. Not a smile, but something far more profound. Raw, unbidden respect. She gave a single firm nod, securing the map carefully beneath her armor plating. Around them, cadets gathered, whispers carrying the tale of Jonas's climb. Some clutched shattered drones, others tapped futilely at darkened data visors, faces etched with defeat or bewilderment. But now, a spark. Someone had acted, a human mind cutting through paralysis, offering a tangible path. There was a plan, a nascent shape from chaos. Then Commander Virex's fractured, distorted voice crackled through the comms. "Visual relay restored. Manual operations approved. Proceed at your discretion." Jonas didn't hesitate, validation no longer necessary. He stepped forward, a quiet certainty, gesturing for the others to gather. He was ready to lead. The cadets coalesced into a loose circle around Jonas, their armor casting dull gleams in the dappled light filtering through the ancient canopy. The air hung thick and humid, the jungle a vibrant, humming symphony. But for the first time since the devastating pulse, a profound shared purpose settled upon them. Jonas stood slightly apart, his hand etched with graphite, a testament to his analog victory. His pulse remained a steady rhythm after the brutal ascent. Captain Eska held the folded map in her slender, crystalline fingers, handling it with almost reverent care. Her inner glow subtly dimmed as she spoke, her voice calm yet insistent, guiding the others, her finger tracing the terrain Jonas had marked. Jonas listened intently, offering no words unless prompted. He observed faces, discerning currents of doubt and belief, assessing who embraced this unorthodox plan. The tall amphibian cadet, Kren, repeatedly glanced at his useless strapped drone, jaw rigid with frustration. Yet others, like the multi-limbed insectoid cadet, Roos, appeared more receptive, their segmented fingers tracing the hand-drawn lines with a hesitant awe. Only when Eska gestured did Jonas step forward. She returned the map, her gaze meeting his with a single profound nod. He took it, crouching smoothly, pressing the paper onto a moss-covered boulder. With his pencil, he drew a long horizontal line, then precise angular branches, replicating the detailed overhead view he had memorized. His voice, steady and devoid of ego, explained as he drew. "The main ridge runs along here," he began. "These clearings," he indicated irregular shapes in the south quadrant, "they aren't natural. This looks like a false trail, a decoy, but this one." He traced a sweeping curve on the map, bisected by a thick, dark line representing trees. "This one displays heat haze and distortions, the real outpost." The team gathered closer. EA crossed her arms, listening intently. Jonas continued, his pencil shading dense foliage. "There's a natural hollow in the ground," he explained, choked with dense vines, shrouded in mist from the southern stream, and riddled with roots big enough to crawl beneath. It leads directly into the eastern blind spot, completely bypassing any patrol routes. If we stay low and stick to the undergrowth, we can reach the outer defenses undetected. Kren scoffed, his arms still folded. Pure conjecture. You didn't scan it. You simply observed it from a perch like some woodland creature. Jonas met his gaze calmly. You're right. I didn't scan it. I read it. Reese clicked her mandibles softly, her voice translating smoothly. If you're wrong, we'll march straight into a detection grid. I'm not wrong, Jonas stated with quiet certainty. But I'll go first. That silenced the room. Isa nodded. Then we follow in pairs. Move low, stay silent. A single tap means halt. A double means retreat. Jonas carefully folded the map, slipping it back into his vest. He turned towards the eastern path, knelt, and brushed his fingers through the soil. It was slightly damp, scattered with splintered twigs and brittle leaf fragments, the kind of treacherous, overgrown trail no patrol would ever favor. It was perfect. He moved forward, each step deliberate. He angled his body low, allowing the trailing branches to brush against his shoulders. The path twisted sharply near a cluster of bulbous orange fungi, their surfaces faintly pulsing with bioluminescence. He mentally noted to steer clear. Certain flora on Reax 5 reacted explosively to touch. Essa followed, a near-silent shadow. Her own light dimmed, her form blurring like smoke. The others trailed in pairs, their formation fluidly adapting to the terrain's undulations. Jonas guided them beneath fallen logs and over slippery, algae-coated stones. Periodically, he would pause, listening not for voices, but for any break in the natural sounds of the jungle. Silence where insects should buzz, stillness where wind should rustle leaves. These were the subtle markers of surveillance, the telltale signs of artificial stillness, betraying a hidden presence. They pushed through the dense undergrowth for nearly 20 minutes before Jonas raised his hand, signaling a single tap. The team froze instantly. He crouched, retrieved the map from his pouch, its corners now slightly damp, and unfolded it, pointing to a narrow gap between two prominent routes. That's where the patrol route begins. Lowering the map, he peered into the confined passage ahead. Just beyond that root system, the ground descended sharply, narrowing between two colossal stone formations. This would be their most vulnerable point. The sun's rays pierced the canopy here, casting sharp shadows and creating natural glare, ideal for masking movement if timed perfectly. Jonas waited. A gentle breeze stirred the leaves above, carrying with it the faint metallic chime of a footfall, a cadence too precise to be natural. He lowered himself further, motioning to Isa, who gave a slight nod. She retrieved a chemical marker from her pouch, activating a non-electronic flare that glowed briefly before dissolving. It would mark their position for those following. Jonas counted the steps. 4 steps. A pause. 4 more steps. He surmised the approaching unit consisted of a single operative, moving in timed intervals, perfect for slipping past. He moved first, hugging the slope. He stepped over roots without disturbing them, his palm pressed to the earth for stability. Once past the ridge, he crawled beneath a fallen branch, flattening himself against the base of a boulder. The measured footsteps returned, now mere meters behind. He held his breath. A shadow passed overhead, tall, encased in armor, moving with disquieting, mechanical grace. The simulated adversary. Its mask emitted a faint glow as it scanned outwards, but its gaze remained fixed ahead, never downward. As the enemy patrol moved out of his immediate vicinity, Jonas released his breath and tapped once against the stone. Isa followed next, her outline barely discernible against the bright glare. Then Rithus, then Kren, all silent now. One by one, the squad navigated the bottleneck and regrouped on the other side, sheltered beneath a moss-draped outcrop. Jonas unrolled the map once more, marking a new icon. Patrol confirmed, he circled the location and added a small L beside it, indicating light security. Now, the terrain began to climb more steeply, forming a ridge that curved towards the suspected outpost. He could see it now, not the structure itself, but its surroundings. Subtle disruptions in the overhead canopy hinted at long, camouflaged panels. Heat shimmer near the ground indicated coolant exhaust vents. The structure was concealed, low profile, and masked, but not entirely invisible. He scanned the final approach. The path was lined with dense grass and jagged roots, but one element drew his attention. A large tree stood there. The tree tilted ever so slightly off-center on the hill's gentle slope. Smaller bushes clustered around its base, giving a deceptive impression of nature, yet the unnatural angle hinted at design. He leaned closer, smudging graphite onto his thumb before gently pressing it onto the paper to create a simulated shadow. But the tree's shadow betrayed it, a straight, constant line, the disguise of a hidden turret. He pointed, then looked at Issa. She squinted, her slow nod confirming his suspicion. On the map, Jonas rerouted their path, drawing a wide curve around the tree, longer but safer. As the group advanced, their pace slowed further, Jonas moving with a predator's grace. Using the forest's sounds as a shield, he deliberately snapped a dry branch near a stream, masking the subtle hiss of unseen movement. He tossed a small stone near the deceptive tree, momentarily diverting the turret's scanning field. Each action was purposeful. By the time they reached the perimeter of the simulated base, not a single alarm had sounded. Jonas knelt behind a fallen tree, peering over the final ridge. Below, shrouded in mist and foliage, lay the enemy outpost, mirroring his map precisely. A low structure, half submerged in the earth, concealed within the landscape, yet laid bare by his meticulous observation. He retrieved the map and circled the outpost one last time. The moment of breach had arrived. Breath held shallow, Jonas watched the simulated outpost through the thick fog. The sunken structure blended so perfectly with the surroundings that it would have been entirely undetectable from the ground without his pre-existing knowledge. A wall of vines concealed the entrance, while false rock formations guarded each side. Despite its inconspicuous appearance, a powerful sense of control emanated from the facility. Faint pulses of energy occasionally shimmered across the perimeter. Stealth-based motion sensors, active even though the EMP had disabled all standard cadet tech. He tapped the trunk beside him. Issa emerged from behind a nearby boulder to his right, crouched low, her crystalline skin muted to avoid detection. She followed his gaze to the base. He pointed to the slope leading to the northwestern corner, one of the blind spots he had located from the tree. The sensor field abruptly stopped there, where the terrain dipped into a trench. It could be construed as oversight, yet Jonas recognized it as the singular entry point, only viable with unwavering resolve. Issa didn't question him. She silently signaled the others, guiding them into position with controlled movements. The team spread out, keeping close to the ground, hidden by the undergrowth. Kren positioned himself at the rear, near a possible escape route. Rithis moved to the far left, taking cover behind a fallen log. Jonas waited, then slid into the trench, his weight carefully controlled to disappear beneath the moss. The descent was slippery. Mud coated his gloves as he gripped the slope. At the bottom, he pressed himself against the earth, allowing the moisture to soak into his knees, remaining perfectly still. A few meters ahead, the pulse barrier shimmered again, its arc ending before the trench's edge. He reached into his pouch and extracted a clump of damp earth, mixing it with ash from a burned branch. He rubbed the mixture over his skin and armor, masking his heat signature and dulling any reflections. He turned and signaled. Issa followed, her movements fluid and precise, reaching him in seconds, her footsteps barely audible. One by one, the cadets slipped into the trench until 5 figures were pressed together in a line beneath the ridge. Jonas held up his hand, then signaled 3, 2, 1. He crawled forward to where the vines parted, revealing a narrow passage between 2 false stone panels. He slid sideways, emerging into shadow meters from the outpost wall. No sensors triggered. The EMP hadn't affected the base's defenses because they were non-digital, pure camouflage and deterrent. Jonas admired the simplicity. He motioned for Issa to hold her position, then felt along the wall's edge, searching for a seam. He found it, an access hatch concealed behind a false root. A manual override was hidden beneath a piece of bark. He opened the panel and twisted the crank until a soft click echoed within. The hatch opened with the faintest hiss, and he ducked inside. The interior of the simulated base was dimly lit. The room felt cold, airless, and sterile. Imitation control panels lined the walls, some lights blinking, feigning activity, others dimmed to simulate power saving. Jonas burned the layout into his memory, noting angles and exits, hunting for any sign of an enemy. A faint sound, a rustle, drifted from the hall, followed by the measured thud of approaching footsteps. Reacting instantly, he signaled Eska, their eyes meeting. He pointed towards the sound. She nodded once, a silent understanding, and vanished into the corridor. Together they flattened themselves against the wall, anticipating the patrol. A single enemy soldier, a simulated operative, rounded the corner, encased in dark armor, a crimson light sweeping across the hallway from its visor. Frozen in the shadow of a structural beam, Jonas remained unseen as the scanner passed without a pause. As the footsteps receded, he moved with a new urgency, guiding Eska swiftly through the hallway toward the simulated command module, the only place large enough to contain the exercise's central terminal. Inside, he found thin, analog datapads, physical copies of enemy intelligence briefings. The objective. He snatched one, tucking it beneath his armor. Time to go. But as he turned, a piercing screech shattered the quiet, a blaring alarm, mechanical and relentless. Something had gone wrong. Kren stumbled from the hatchway, bleeding from a cut on his arm. "Turret grid!" he gasped. "Scanning low!" Without hesitation, Jonas led his team through an alternate route he'd mapped beforehand, exiting through a hidden hatch on the compound's far side. No one questioned his instincts. They trusted him now. Outside, the squad spread out, taking cover behind rocks, while Issa tended to Kren's wound. Jonas spread the map on a flat stone, adjusting their extraction route with a pencil, curving wide around a ridge and south towards the beacon, just as he had envisioned. As the squad moved out, Jonas handed the datapad to Eska. She examined it in silence, her thoughts unreadable. The mission, against all odds, had been successful. Breached outpost, recovered data, team intact, all without tech, with only pencil, paper, and instinct. As they reached the clearing where the dropship waited, the other cadets paused to watch. Word had spread. The human team had won, using nothing but their wits. Commander Varric stood waiting, his multifaceted eyes fixed on Jonas as he approached. The alien officer said nothing, merely gesturing towards the ship. Jonas boarded, mud clinging to his armor, hands smudged, eyes sharp. He sought no praise, only knowing he'd done what was required. His team followed, quiet, thoughtful. Even Kren, who had doubted him, offered a nod of respect as he passed. Jonas had led them in unseen, brought them out alive, and done it with a map and a pencil. The dropship rose from the jungle, its rumble a promise of safety, carrying its occupants above the mist of Reaxif's thick atmosphere. Silence hung heavy in the vessel, thick with the weight of what had just transpired. A change had come over them, unnamed, unknown. Jonas sat at the back, his folded, now creased map still tucked beneath his armor. He traced its edges absently, his fingers dancing across the lines and notations he'd made. Eska turned toward him, her crystalline face unreadable, but her presence calm, steady. She had spoken little, but now her gaze met his, and she gave a slow, deliberate nod. It wasn't thanks or admiration, but a deeper recognition. When the dropship clang echoed as cadets disembarked at the orbital training station, boots striking the sterile metal. A solemn delegation awaited, officers, analysts, instructors, with Director Tovil, a towering figure with silver eyes etched with the High Tactical Council's marks, standing at their heart. Tovil's rare presence signaled a shift. Relax 5 wasn't just training, it was a critical study. Ushered into a circular debriefing chamber, surrounded by data screens, the cadets surrendered their gear. Clad in a simple jumpsuit, Jonas found a quiet spot. Suddenly, a vast screen burst to life, displaying jungle terrain, transitioning from pre-EMP drone footage to high-altitude orbital surveillance and hidden field drones resistant to the surge. Instructors initiated the debrief. Timelines, positional breakdowns, strategic shifts, displaying cadets floundering after the EMP, system reboots, hesitations, panic. Then the footage shifted, showing Jonas's ascent into the canopy, the sketching, the silent exchange with Eska, the breach, the escape. Murmurs rippled through the room. An instructor stepped forward, his tone precise. Cadet Cade achieved visual identification of the outpost within 75 minutes. He adapted without digital aid, guided his squad flawlessly, and reached the objective undetected. His unconventional independent action yielded undeniable success. Director Tovil stepped forward, his gaze locking on Jonas, inscrutable. Then he addressed the room. Cadet Cade's actions reveal a stark truth, he stated. We, reliant on technological supremacy, fail when that technology is absent. Ryax Fiv tested not just tactics, but instinct. Only one cadet succeeded. Silence descended. Jonas remained unmoved. He had sought no praise, only resolution. Tovil continued, pacing deliberately. We have over-relied on neural processors, drones, algorithms. When they fail, so do we. Cadet Cade reminded us of something older, wiser: observation, patience, will. He turned fully to Jonas. Your methods will be scrutinized, your decisions recorded. Your fieldwork will be integrated into revised training. Jonas offered a curt nod, acknowledging the weight. He had proven the resilience of humanity, Deathworlders as they were often called, amidst chaos. Later, Jonas stood alone in the mess hall, his meal untouched, gazing at the star-strewn expanse. Beyond lay real missions, real dangers, real battles. The simulation tested not strength or speed, but his mind, his choices, his refusal to be paralyzed. Footsteps approached. It was Eska, her base uniform softly illuminated. She joined him, gazing into space. "I recalibrated everything after the mission," she said. "My algorithms, my assumptions." Jonas tilted his head. "You didn't just teach us how to adapt," she continued. "You reminded us what we've forgotten. I won't forget again." Jonas offered a faint smile. "You trusted me when no one else did." "I didn't trust the map at first," she said. "I trusted the way you moved when you held it." That earned a soft chuckle. As she turned to leave, she added, "You'll be assigned early. Frontline, recon, maybe deeper." He nodded. "I know." He did. The following morning, he received his orders. Advanced placement, cross-specialty, advisory. He would teach what he did, not as a template, but as a reminder that skill wasn't always programmed, that the most vital thing wasn't what you carried. Clutched tightly in your trembling hands was more than just parchment. It was a lifeline, a beacon guiding your gaze upward, daring you to ascend. Jonas Cade meticulously folded the aged map, tucking it carefully into his private journal. He gathered his equipment, tightened the laces of his worn boots, and strode purposefully toward the echoing docking bay, where his awaiting vessel stood ready. This was no mere simulation, no sterile training drill. This was his inaugural, genuine mission. He pressed onward, without a backward glance, his heart a mixture of fear and anticipation.